Good evening from my parts of the world. It's another Sunday. Let's have a conversation. It's another Sunday. Let's have a conversation. What war are you still fighting that ended a long time ago? We'll use the story of Hugh Unoda. This is a public story. You can Google him and read a lot about him. Once I learn, I also come to share. There's so much you can also learn from the story too. So do your own research about it and find out how we get stuck in struggles because of our mindset beliefs and sometimes to even a one-sided loyalty. And how be able to get a winner's mindset. How be able to live with a winner's mindset. Because everything begins in the mind. All the wins, all the losses, they all start in our minds before our body and spirit manifest them. When you hear as a man thinketh in his heart, we think with our hearts. No. Once it starts in your mind and you capitalize on that belief, that mindset, then your heart embraces it. And that influences your actions, your language, your behavior. So you turn around and that is you, what you have become. And you wonder why. All the losses, all the wins begin in our minds. Is it possible to begin living as winners regardless of our situations? You may not have anything to your name, but you can still begin living as a winner. And definitely you will win. Because that will influence your actions, even reactions in this life. And of course, you get that result. So let's look at this story basically and what you and I will be able to learn from that. Your comments are equally welcome. Your comments are equally welcomed. What war are you still fighting that ended a long time ago? There's a story that beautifully and painfully captures this truth. I don't use people's stories. You know everything you've shared with me is safe. Miti payamipe than to share your story, and you know it by now. But there's a story that's out there. I mean, of course, 1940, 74, no, 51 years ago. Yeah, it's out there. You can equally read about it. So this is beautifully and painfully capturing this truth. It's the story of Hiro Onoda, a Japanese soldier who fought a war that has ended. The war has already ended. The war has already ended. The relationship has already ended. The cookie has already crumbled. Would you sit down here till you die? No, never again and no more. So this Japanese soldier fought a war that had already ended. Sometimes the war doesn't end when the guns go silent. Sometimes the loudest battles are the ones we keep fighting inside our minds, inside our memories, inside the wounds that never healed. Did I just say wounds that never healed? Wounds that we refuse to heal. Wounds that we refuse to heal from. There are wars that end on battlefields, and there are wars that continue in the mind. Sometimes peace is declared in the world around us, but the human heart continues to wage battles that no longer exist. Sometimes when people come to us telling us people have been through worse experiences, we think it's because they don't understand our pain. It's because they feel our pain is not valid. No, it is because probably they have been through worse situations. Number one, they knew how that drained them. They knew how that destroyed them. And they knew how getting the courage to heal that wounds had brought them a lot of peace. And that is what they are telling you, that people have been through worse situations and they survived. So yours is not supposed to destroy you. Sometimes peace is declared in the world around us, but the human heart, your heart, continues to wage battles that no longer exist. One of the most striking stories that mirrors this truth is that of the man I just mentioned, Hiro Onoda, this Japanese soldier who kept fighting for nearly 30 years. When I chanced upon the story, I'm like, is this a fiction or something someone really lived? Because I immediately put myself into the story. 30 solid years. 30 solid years. After World War II had ended, he kept fighting because he simply refused to believe the war was over. The relationship is over. I am not celebrating that. I am celebrating you being alive and your sanity being intact and the privilege to begin again, not from ground zero, but from huge experiences. You have no business being stuck. 30 solid years still fighting when World War II had ended because he simply refused to believe the war was over. His story is not only a lesson in loyalty and endurance, but also a mirror for every one of us who may still be fighting emotional, mental, or spiritual wars that ended a long time ago. You see things that hurt you even in your childhood, you begin talking about them and you still have that fresh emotions like you went through. Yeah, precisely. When you are still fighting emotional, mental, and spiritual wars that ended long time ago. So this was 1945. 1945, the Second World War came to an official close. 1945 I'm talking about, when the Second World War came to an official close. The world celebrated peace. Nations rebuilt. But Unoda, a loyal intelligence officer stationed on a small island in the Philippines, didn't believe it. He thought the surrender was a lie, a trap set by the enemy. So he disappeared into the jungle. He disappeared into the jungle and kept fighting. He ran into the jungle and kept fighting. Hiro Onoda was a young intelligence officer in the Imperial Japanese Army, deployed to Lumbang Island in the Philippines during World War II. His mission was clear: to conduct a guerrilla warfare and never surrender. He had no business surrendering. He was never to surrender. So when I tell you, loyalty is not just an incoming street, you'll be run down by the oncoming vehicles. His mission was clear. He was never to surrender. To wait until an officer come to tell him, yes, it is over, or we are defeated, or he dies. Yeah. In 1945, Japan surrendered and the war officially ended. But Onoda didn't believe it. He thought the leaflets dropped by the Allied forces announcing Japan's surrender were enemy propaganda. He has been trained to see loyalty as the air he breathes. So until the same people come to him to tell him it is over, he dare not believe anybody else. The people you are brainwashed to fight for will never lift a finger for you. The people you have been brainwashed to be loyal to, even at the expense of your life, your integrity, will never lift a finger for you. His mission was clear: never to surrender. So he continued his mission. And my question is, should we find such people in our camp? Why wouldn't we take care of them? Why wouldn't we be committed to them too? People can put their lives on hold so they serve and service what we stand for. He continued his mission, hiding in the jungle. Why do I keep saying jungle? Hiding in the jungle, surviving off wild fruits, and occasionally raiding nearby villages. He's fighting for his master, fighting for his country, when the World War II has officially ended. He was surviving off wild fruits, whilst those who sent him there were living their lives. Occasionally raiding nearby villages, because in his mind he was still fighting loyalty to his last blood. And for 29 long years, he lived in a personal war that had ceased to exist everywhere else. Can you imagine 29 years? Do you have a child who is 29 years? Yes. Then you understand what I'm talking about. 29 long years, almost 30 years, almost 3 decades. He lived in a personal war that had ceased to exist everywhere else. It wasn't until 1974, when I was born, when his former commanding officer traveled to the Philippines to personally relieve him of duty. And my question is, for all those 29 years, when the officers knew of his story, why did they wait for 29 years? That is a story for some other day. 29 long years. When the officers knew that he was still fighting, his instruction was still being carried to the letter, why did they allow him to be on his own? If they had died, they would have gone to bring his body to come and give him a befitting burial. While he wasted that life. It was until 1974 when his former commanding officer traveled to the Philippines to personally relieve him of duty that Unoda finally laid down his arms. This story sounds extreme. Yes, the exact question that came to mind, the exact statement that I made. The story sounds extreme. But is it really that different from what many of us are living today? Is this story really different from what many of us do today? How many of us are still fighting the wars of our past, the emotional battles, the betrayals, the heartbreaks and failures that ended long time ago? Because you failed at one business, you don't even want to try. At least you have learned what not to do if you want to succeed. Is that not supposed to be an achievement? Why do you want to give up? Because you've been betrayed. That's life. You have become wiser. How many people are still fighting the wars of their past? The emotional battles, the betrayals, the heartbreaks, and the failures that ended long time ago. This man kept 29 years of his life still fighting because that was the instruction his superiors gave him. When you go until you are relieved of duties, fight until your last breath. And if people can be disloyal, why can't others also be disloyal to them? Why do people use others to achieve their goals and leave them broke and broken? Good evening, Eze. Thank you for being on. When you happen to find somebody who is loyal like Eze, who would always be on my live stream, even when nobody's there at the beginning, why would I take him for granted? Somebody that even when the World War II had ended 29 years, but because his officer had not seen him face to face to relieve him of his duties, was still fighting. Why couldn't the country that sent him there be also loyal to him to go fetch him and bring him to continue his life? Why is it normal to take the good people for granted? That people who sacrifice everything, including their integrity, to make sure they serve our vision and our cause. Why do we take those people for granted in this life? Like Onoda, we cling to instructions, beliefs, or fears that may have once protected us but are now outdated. We cling to instructions, beliefs, or fears that may have once protected us but they are now outdated. We hide in the jungles of our minds, suspicious of peace. We can't trust everybody and anybody, and yet we want others to trust us. How is that possible? How is that feasible? Unwilling to believe that life has moved on. Yes, your pain is valid, but life has moved on. If you're not careful, you'll be left behind. This Japanese soldier wasted 29 solid years of his life after World War II had officially been ended. He was still fighting because his instruction was to fight and never surrender. So even when our beliefs are hurting us, we can't question, we can't interrogate these beliefs, and we are just living like ignorant and naive people. For some, that war may be against a parent's disapproval. Some parents didn't know much, and what they knew is what they gave us. Now that you know better, you want to hold on to that pain. No, you end up being destroyed. So the war has ended. Why are we still holding on to the pain? And for some, that war may be against the parents' disapproval, still haunting every decision, even decades later. For others, it may be the memory of a failed relationship. He betrayed you, she betrayed you, and so what? That will open the door for you to meet other people. In this life, there are people you will never think you part ways with, but life will happen. And in the same way, you meet people you never dreamt that you meet. That is life. So for others, it may be the memory of a failed relationship, making them distrust love again. Some people will never do right by you. But the moment you move on, you meet people who will love you so much that you wonder how come you wasted your life with those who couldn't even see your value. That is life. That is life. So a failed relationship should make you distrust love again. Some fight wars of inadequacy. Who told you you are inadequate? Who told you? Carrying the scars of childhood rejection or bullying, even though those bullies and circumstances are long gone. Everyone around you took you for granted growing up, and you think that's supposed to be your story today, after 10, 20, 30 years? No. And for many, the battle is against themselves. The guilt of past mistakes, the shame of poor choices, the regret of lost time, fighting your own self. We wear emotional armor. I remain on high alert, defending against attacks that will never come again. It happened, but it doesn't mean that's how the rest of your life is going to be. The tragedy of this Japanese soldier, Hiro Onoda, the tragedy of his life is not that he fought bravely, but that he fought needlessly. Listen to these words. It is not because he fought bravely, but he fought needlessly. Some of the battles that we continually fight is needlessly. He lost 30 years of his life to a war that was already over. World War II has already ended, but he still kept fighting needless battles. Some battles are needless. They're of no use to who we are becoming. Why do we fight them? Similarly, when we refuse to let go of old pain, outdated fears, or expired battles, we lose the present moment. The only battlefield where life truly exists. Today, the present moment. The world moves forward. The world will never wait for you and I to heal. So as long as we hold on to old wounds, we are delaying ourselves. It wouldn't be the fault of any demon, any devil, any human. It would be ourselves. So if our hearts are trapped in 1945, like Hiro Unoda, in that moment of hurt, loss, or disappointment, we get stuck. By the time that destiny will come and fetch us, we would have wasted decades of productive years. But there's also redemption in Unoda's story. When he finally returned to Japan, he was not mocked or condemned. He was received with compassion and curiosity, a symbol of unwavering duty. So sometimes the people that you think would judge you are just waiting for you to let go of all the gibberishness, the nonsense, and just take hold of your life and see how help will come from all angles. The people you think don't care, they are just waiting for you to take hold of your life and begin living. And you see how help will come from expected or unexpected corners. So I've told you, me, everything, there is a learning curve there for me. I don't know about you. He was received with compassion and curiosity, a symbol of unwavering duty. There are lots of people in this life who are not ready to own their lives and to live. If you are afraid that when you own your life, they will judge you, you get stuck. And you turn back in some few years to come and realize they never cared. And you have wasted your life. Yet even he had to relearn life. To go and live in that jungle for 30 solid years, he won't come back and continue from anywhere. You'd have to come and relearn life. The difficult aspect. When life hits some people so hard and they realize their beliefs are dated, the way they have left will not enable them to become who they were ordained to be. Instead of them relearning life, then out of pride and ego, because they can't humble themselves and learn, they continue from nowhere and just to waste life. This soldier came back and he had to relearn life. The world has changed. The world had changed. Japan had moved from war to peace, from destruction to development. He couldn't just fit in there. He had to relearn life. The very day you have the awareness that I don't want to live as an ignorant and naive person anymore, you have to relearn life. If you let your ego take hold of you and refuse to learn, you get stuck. It wouldn't be the fault of any demon, any devil, anybody. It would be because you are not ready to learn. He had to relearn life. The world had changed. The Japan that he was a soldier and sent out for mission had moved from war to peace, from destruction to development. He had to start over, learn to live again, and find a new mission beyond survival. But the beautiful thing is, at that point, when you want to relearn life, you are not relearning like a novice, like from ground zero. You have so much experience. Your mindset is updated now. So what would take other people 10 years, you can use 2 years to learn them and to move faster. So if at that level you decide not to learn, you have done yourself so much harm that you have no idea. If you look at the bigger picture, you feel wasted, and that alone will discourage you. But if only you take one day at a time, you'll be amazed how fast you'll be able to go. So at any point in this life that you get the awareness that this is not the life I want to live, and you want to relearn life, know that it's possible, it is feasible, and you can do it and do it right. Learn to live again and find a new mission beyond just survival. Learn to live again and find a new vision, a new purpose, a new mission beyond just survival. No, now you live purposeful. That is what healing requires from you and I. The courage to stop surviving old battles and start living new dreams. The courage to stop surviving old battles and start living new dreams. So I ask you today, what war are you still fighting that ended a long time ago? Are you still fighting World War II like Hiro Onoda when the war had ended 29 years? What outdated instruction, fear, or pain still dictates how you live, love, and dream? What outdated instruction, fear, or pain still dictates how you live, love, and dream? Maybe it's time to come out of that jungle. Yes, like Hiro Onoda, it is time to come out of that jungle. Maybe it's time to accept that peace has come. You can't live in dissonance forever and think your body will just obey you. When there's dissonance among body, soul, and spirit, anything and everything can kill you, can destroy you. Maybe it's time to accept that peace has come, even if your heart still feels safer in war, in confusion. It is time to come out of that jungle. Hero Onoda, his story reminds us that loyalty is noble, but blind loyalty to pain is bondage. Loyalty is noble, but blind loyalty to pain is bondage. The war is over. The world has moved on. You can too. You can too. Lay down your weapons, your resentment, your guilt, your defensiveness, and step into the light of peace. Because sometimes the greatest act of courage is not to keep fighting, but to finally surrender to healing, to realize this environment will not enable you to grow, to become who you are ordained to be. It might be good for everybody, but it's not your portion anymore. Just surrender to healing. Laying down your weapons, your pride, your pain, your resentment is how we return to life. No more your ego living. When they finally found him in 1974, his uniform was worn, his rifle rusted, but his mind still locked in the war, in that same war that ended before he was even 30 years old. Productive years. Productive years. When they finally found him in 1974, His uniform was worn, his rifle rusted, but his mind still locked in that same war that ended before he even turned 30 years old. He had fought courageously. Yes, he had fought courageously, but in vain, a needless war. A needless war. And yet, before we judge him, just like I said, we must ask ourselves, when you come up across these stories and you read them and you're tempted to laugh, ask yourself, just like I did, how many of us are still living like Unoda, still fighting battles that ended long time ago? When we carry grudges from wounds that time has already healed. We replay failures from seasons that have already expired. Yeah, those seasons have already expired. We defend ourselves against enemies who no longer exist, or perhaps never did. They are all in our minds. We hide behind walls we built years ago, walls meant to protect us from pain, but now they keep love out. They prevent us from evolving. Thank you, Eze. Some of us are still at war with our past, with the people who hurt us. They are enjoying life and you are in pain because they hurt you. They have moved on. They are living good. They are living large. And you have placed your life on hold because of that pain. It is needless. Some people are still at war with their past, with the people who hurt them, with the things they lost, with the mistakes they made. Others are still trying to prove themselves to ghosts. Parents who never approved, lovers who never stayed, friends who never understood. And like Onoda, they cling to old orders, never surrender. They are on to relationships that are killing you. And because you are told never to surrender, you are fighting to your last breath. Stay alert. Don't trust anyone. You expect people to trust you, but you can't trust anybody. Even when peace has already arrived, there's still so much war in their soul. But here's the truth. You cannot keep fighting yesterday and expect to win today. Yesterday is gone. World War II has ended long time ago. You cannot live fully in the present while holding on to an expired war. The leaflets have dropped. The universe has already declared peace. But yet, Hero Onoda was still fighting. When he finally came out of the jungle, Japan had changed. Some people will come back to their senses. They will give in. They would understand that life has evolved. But sometimes it will take you a wasted life, a wasted opportunity, a missed opportunity for you to come to your senses. The war-torn nation he remembered had become a modern, peaceful country. The world had moved on, but he had not. So before we judge him, let's ask ourselves, is it not the same way we are living too? The danger of holding on too long while you are fighting old wars, the world is quietly evolving without you. The danger of holding on too long is that while you are fighting old wars, the world is quietly evolving without you. The man wasted almost 3 decades of his life fighting a war that had ended, a war that officially had been declared closed. Not because he wasn't brave, not because he wasn't strong, but because of belief. Because of belief. Some of us are struggling. Some people are struggling because of their beliefs, their outdated beliefs. And as long as they hold on to those beliefs, they will indeed struggle because the world has moved on. His mind trapped him in a reality that no longer existed. And this hits me so hard. And the question is, how many people are doing the same thing today? Fighting battles that are long over, holding on to pain that should have been released. It is not how the weight of this bottle, but how long I hold on to it is how painful it would be to me. Living by rules that don't exist anymore. Those who gave you the rules have moved on. They have moved on. And because they don't owe us anything, they will not come back and tell us that the rules they gave you, they don't live by them anymore. And you are stuck because of someone else's rules. They give you rules that they don't live by anymore. And you are stuck because you know deep down that who you are becoming, who you are made for you to live, move, and have your being, those rules can't help you in any way. But you are still stuck because of those rules. Those who gave you the rules, they are not living like that anymore. But you are stuck. Some people are still fighting with their past failures. Some are still stuck in the mindset of their parents' poverty. Because you were born into a poor home does not mean you should live poor and die poor. I reject that for you. Some are still living in the shadow of what people said about them years ago. The war ended, but in his mind, he was still fighting. You are still in that jungle. We don't just live in the world outside us, we live in the world inside us too. And sometimes the world that destroys us is the world that is inside us that nobody can even see. Our beliefs, paradigms, and perspectives. This influencer will live, move, and do our things. And it is the energy we emit into the universe. So we get the results based on that. If you don't update your inner reality, you'll be fighting ghosts while the real opportunities pass you by. So every news story you consume would break another mental wall that you didn't know was living inside of you. That is why you have to come to a place in life where you would interrogate and question your beliefs and paradigms. Why is your life like this? Why do you do the things you do? It is because of your beliefs and paradigms. If you don't like the results you are getting, it means you have to interrogate the beliefs that enable you to get into that side. Your reality today is not where you were born. It is what you choose to believe. It is what you chose to believe. It is what you choose to believe. So let me ask you, what war are you still fighting that ended a long time ago? Regardless of your situation, where you were born into, circumstances surrounding your birth, who your parents are, all the nonsense you've been through in this life, you can still cultivate a winner's mindset. You don't need to be rich, influential, live like whatever. You, even in your small corner, you can cultivate the winner's mindset. You can decide to get out of that jungle. A winner's mindset is not built on trophies, applause, or luck. It is forged in quiet moments of self-discipline, resilience, and belief. To cultivate a winner's mindset is to train your mind to see possibilities where others see limitation. Everybody can decide, can choose to see limitations. You can see possibilities. To find purpose in pain, that everything life throws at you, you find meaning, you find purpose in them. You never waste any pain. You rise every time life knocks you down. If this is your mindset, winning therefore begins long before the victory is visible to the world. Winning begins in our minds long before the victory is visible to the world. So start living as a winner here. It begins in unseen chambers of our mind. The unseen chambers of the mind. To cultivate a winner's mindset, you must first understand that success is not an event, but a process. It is easy to envy people at the top of their fields, forgetting that what looks like overnight success often took years of consistent effort, failure, and refinement. Winners are not defined by the absence of defeat. They are defined by how they respond to it. So when all the news were reporting that the world was over, instead of wasting 29 years, Ronaldo could have just stepped out to say, if I perish, I perish. It is many a time it is when we get to that crossroads that we say, I will choose anyway. I will make an effort anyway. If I perish, I perish. That is when breakthroughs come. Every obstacle becomes a lesson, and every setback becomes fuel for the next attempt. Every obstacle becomes a lesson, and every setback becomes fuel for the next chapter. People might think they are betraying you, but they don't know they are giving you lessons to your next level. Every obstacle becomes a lesson, and every setback becomes fuel for your next attempt. You do not ask why me, but rather, what can I learn from this? This shift in perspective is the seed from which growth is born. The second key to cultivating a winner's mindset is discipline. The ability to do what must be done even when motivation is gone. There were news all over the world that World War II had ended. You are loyalty to people who are not loyal to you, and you don't see that as a word I can't use. What about your own life as a person? For 29 years, why did it take his superior that long to come find him, to come fetch him and relieve him of duties, to wait the productive years of his life? Winners know that motivation is fleeting, but discipline is dependable. It is what keeps you moving from enthusiasm. It is what keeps you moving when enthusiasm fades, when all the excitements go down. It is discipline that will keep you going. Enable you to think that this is the way I've lived. I don't like the results I'm getting. So common sense means I should interrogate why I am here. Great athletes still train when they are tired. Successful entrepreneurs still show up when results are slow. Artists still create even when no one is watching. A winner's mindset thrives on consistency, not convenience. So everybody keep on telling Onoda that the war is over. Japan has moved on consistently. Why wouldn't you take such information. Even try and fail and know that at least you tried. He ignored all this and wasted almost 30 years of his life. A winner's mindset thrives on consistency, not convenience. It is built in those ordinary, unseen moments when most people choose to say no. Another essential ingredient is resilience, the mental strength to recover quickly from disappointments. Life will test your resolve, your patience, and your faith. It doesn't mean you should be giving blind loyalty. There should be failures. There would be failures, criticisms, and moments of deep doubts. But winners understand that resilience is not just about bouncing back, it's about bouncing forward. So this is the information you went in. Now you get new knowledge, new information. What do you do? You weigh the new knowledge and the new information against the old knowledge and the old information, and the new you would emerge out of balancing these two knowledge and information. A winner's mind does not crumble under pressure. It adapts, learns, and grows stronger with every challenge. So you don't waste productive years of your life only to get the awareness in your 40s and 50s that this is not the life I want. So let me take a 160-degree turnaround. Wasted energy. To truly think like a winner, you must also cultivate self-belief. The mind is the battlefield of all achievements. You cannot achieve what you do not first believe. If you don't believe that you deserve anything better, nothing better would equally come to you. Winners speak to themselves differently. It doesn't matter what is happening all around you. You speak to your soul what you want to experience. Winners use affirmations of strength instead of words of fear. They visualize success, not failure. They understand that doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Self-belief is not arrogance. It is the quiet confidence that you are capable of growth, improvement, and greatness. Why would you work for 29 years and you are not promoted and you are not hearing from your superiors and you are stuck because your order was clear, never to surrender? Never to surrender. For 29 solid years, productive years. No matter how long it takes, self-belief is not arrogance. It is the quiet confidence that you are capable of growth, of improvement, and of greatness, no matter how long it takes. A winner's mindset also involves purpose and vision. Winners do not chase success blindly. They are driven by a sense of meaning. They know why they do what they do. Purpose gives direction, while vision provides motivation. When your goals are tied to something deeper than material gain, when they are rooted in contribution, passion, or destiny, your persistence becomes unshakable. You stop competing with others and begin competing with your own potential. You stop comparing yourself with other people and see how you can become better every time. Cultivating a winner's mindset requires gratitude and humility. These two qualities keep you grounded. Gratitude allows you to appreciate how far you've come. Sometimes when life gets overwhelming and you sit down and you are grateful for the things in your life, you realize that it wasn't as bad as you thought. So being content doesn't mean you don't deserve more, but you enjoy where you are now once you are working for a better life. You don't waste productive years of your life just because of blind loyalty. Winners never stop learning, never stop growing, and never stop appreciating the journey. They understand that every success story is a collaboration between effort, grace, and opportunity. So once you get stuck in a place for 20 years, 29 years, and there is no communication, know that your life is halted. And that is not the will of God for anybody. In essence, a winner's mindset is not about beating others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about showing up with courage, choosing growth over comfort, and refusing to surrender to fear or self-pity. And that is why I'm so excited that in the case of Unoda, he relearned life. He had to relearn life. Something a lot of people are not willing and ready to do. Life didn't go the way you expected, but you don't give up. You relearn. You unlearn and you relearn. When your mind is disciplined, resilient, and purpose driven, with a grateful soul, you become unstoppable. When your mind is disciplined, resilient, purpose driven, and grateful, you become unstoppable. Nothing stops you. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Through all the changing seasons of life, you get stronger. So if you want to cultivate a winner's mindset, start today. Train your thoughts the way an athlete trains his or her body. Be intentional with what you feed your mind, the words, the people, the energy, the habits. Believe in your journey. Stay patient with your progress and never forget that victory is not a place you arrive at. It is the state of mind you live in. It is a state of mind you live in. And in conclusion, let me let you understand that sometimes we struggle and endure unnecessary hardships in this life, not because that any devil or demon is after us, but because our beliefs and mindsets are just wrong. There is a popular saying that when life becomes difficult, it must become the devil. It is because the devil is attacking us. I don't know where we got that from. Religion taught us, but it's wrong. It is wrong. Anytime something is difficult, it means we need more knowledge about what we do. If you want to learn how to drive, what do you do? If you want to drive, what do? You learn how to drive. So anytime life gets overwhelming, it means we lack knowledge in a particular area in our life. It is not because somebody is after us. It is not because a system is against us. We often blame unforeseen forces, especially those of us in this part of the world. We blame unforeseen forces for the chaos, stagnation, or pain in our lives. But sometimes the truth is far simpler and far more uncomfortable. We are not being attacked. We are simply trapped by our own beliefs and mindsets. The enemy is not always external. More often than not, it lives quietly within, in the thoughts we nurture, the fears we protect, and the limitations we refuse to release. There is nobody after us. Our beliefs shape the reality we experience. Our beliefs shape the reality we experience. Our beliefs determine how we interpret situations, how we respond to challenges, and how far we allow ourselves to go. Our beliefs. A negative or rigid mindset can imprison us more effectively than any spiritual battle ever could. A negative or rigid mindset can imprison us more effectively than any spiritual battle ever could. When we believe we are powerless, we stop trying. When we believe we are cursed, we stop expecting good things. When we believe life is supposed to be difficult, we, we subconsciously create conditions that make it so. Why would you believe life is supposed to be difficult? Why would you accept that as for you, your life is difficult and still expect to have things easy for you? And you turn around to ask, how come some people's lives are easy and yours is difficult? That is your projections. That is your belief. It is in your subconscious, and that creates your reality. We become what we consciously believe, not because faith demands it, but because our minds quietly enforce it. Not because faith demands it, but because our minds quietly enforce it. As you think in your heart, so are you. Do we think in our hearts? No. Once it drops in our hearts, it is from our minds. And once our hearts accept it, it becomes our way of living. And definitely that's the result we'll get. It has nothing to do with anybody and any demon, any spirit after us. We become what we consciously believe, not because faith demands it, but because our minds quietly enforce it. Many people endure unnecessary hardships because of the stories they tell themselves. Some were raised to believe that suffering is a sign of righteousness. Heck no. Suffering is not, and will not, and should not be a sign of any righteousness. That to be holy means to be constantly be in pain, broke, or burdened. Others were taught that success is for certain category of people, not for them. And so even when opportunities appear, they sabotage themselves through fear, doubt, or procrastination. The tragedy is not that life is unfair. The tragedy is that our minds often make it so. The tragedy is not that life is unfair, but that our minds often make it so. There are also those who hold on to old, inherited beliefs, patterns passed down from generations. Our family has always struggled, minus me. Our family has always struggled, minus me. Our family has always been poor, minus me. Men are all this way. As for our family, men are this, minus me. My son won't be that. Women are that way in our family, minus my daughter. Nothing good lasts, says who? Nothing good lasts, says who? These are not just facts, they are mental chains. Everything good would have to come as a mess in the beginning, says who? Says who? These are not facts, they are mental chains. They create ceilings that our lives can never rise above because we keep reinforcing them with our words, emotions, and habits. What we constantly accept as truth becomes the scripts our lives follow. What we consistently accept as truth becomes the script our lives follow. Sometimes what we call a spiritual attack is simply mental stagnation. the refusal to renew our minds, mental stagnation. Life changes, yes. Seasons shift, but many people hold on to old mindsets that no longer fit where they are supposed to go. They keep trying to live new lives with old mental software. You want to have a new life, and yet you are still holding on to old mental software. How is that possible? To put a new wine in an old wine sack. Would that hold? No. Why would you keep trying to live new lives with old mental software? That creates inner conflict, confusion, and frustration. The problem is not always demonic resistance. Sometimes it's psychological resistance. The fear of change, the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing control. The Bible itself says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. This means transformation begins from within. Until our thinking changes, nothing around us will. You cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. You cannot step into abundance while clinging to scarcity thinking. You cannot build healthy relationships while believing everyone is out to hurt you. If you believe everyone is out to hurt you, how would you build meaningful connections? How would you build meaningful relationships? Your mindset becomes your magnet. It either attracts peace or multiplies pain, or multiply pains. To break free from unnecessary struggles, we must learn to audit our beliefs. We must learn to audit our beliefs. Ask yourself, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about money, about love, about success, about God? Are these beliefs helping me grow, or are they keeping me small? Are they rooted in truth or in fear and tradition? Growth begins when we are honest enough to question what we have always accepted. Growth begins when we are honest enough to question what we have always accepted. It begins when we realize that not every struggle is an attack. Some are lessons and some are self-inflicted limitations. A renewed mindset opens doors that prayer alone cannot. Yes, a renewed mindset opens doors. A renewed mindset opens doors that prayer alone cannot. Prayer is powerful, yes, but without the right mindset, even divine blessings can be wasted. You can pray for success but sabotage it with laziness or disbelief. You can pray for love but push people away because of unresolved fear. You can pray for peace but live in constant worry. God can open doors, but if your mind refuses to walk through them, you will still feel stuck. So the next time life feels hard, the next time your life gets difficult, pause before blaming the devil. Look within and ask yourself, is this really an attack or is this a reflection of my thinking? Is this hardship necessary or is it the result of a mindset I've refused to change? Is this hardship necessary or is it the result of a mindset I've refused to change? True deliverance begins in the mind. When your mindset changes, your reality must follow. The moment you start believing differently, you start living differently. The moment you start believing differently, you start living differently. You stop struggling for things that are already available to you. You stop enduring pain that is no longer part of your story. You stop calling normal what is actually toxic. Sometimes the freedom we are praying for will not come through another miracle. It would come through a renewed mind. Sometimes the freedom we are praying for will not come through another miracle. It would come through a renewed mind. Because once your mindset shifts, the devil no longer has to be defeated. He simply becomes irrelevant. Once your mindset shifts, the devil no longer has to be defeated. He simply becomes irrelevant. So anytime you hear people saying is the devil, is the devil, is the devil, know that they haven't renewed their mindset yet. They haven't owned their lives yet. They are not living yet. The moment you start believing differently, the moment you start believing differently, you start living differently. The moment you start believing differently, you start living differently. So don't waste productive years only to turn around in some years to come and ask, how did I get here? Don't waste your productive years to turn around in some years to come to ask, how did I get here? The moment you start believing differently, you start living differently. The moment you start believing differently, you start living differently. So finally, what war are you still fighting that ended a long time ago? What war, what battle are you still fighting that ended long time ago? It took Unoda 29 years to still fight after World War II had officially been declared closed, ended. He was still fighting in the jungle. What war, what battle are you still fighting that has been declared ended? Think about these things. Until I come your way again, I say much love and blessings. Know that all the wins and losses first begin in our minds. If you want to win, start believing as a winner and start living as a winner. Because the very moment what you believe changes, how you live equally changes. Start winning in your mind and watch your body, soul, and spirit manifest the wins. Much love and blessings. Thank you for being on. Hi, Josephine. Thank you for being on. Eze, thank you for being on. Everyone, thank you for watching. Your comments are equally accepted. Bye for now.